Good morning, first grade foxes. I am so excited because the new ELA packet doesn't just have skill stuff in it for you guys, it also has listening and learning, which is awesome because we didn't have that before. So, and the other plus to this is that even though the front of the packet says that it's to review skills and standards that have been previously taught, we're actually getting to start a brand new domain. So this is all new content. So I'm going to be using the pacing guide from the packet to help guide your week through virtual lessons. So I'm going to be posting lessons on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So this video lesson for today is for Monday, April 20th. And then at the end of the video, I also have the writing assignment for you for tomorrow, Tuesday, April 21st. So guess what, everybody? Today, we're not reviewing a domain. We get to start a new domain, the domain that we were supposed to start after spring break. We get to start that today, and I'm so excited because it's one of my favorites. So we're going to be starting domain 10, a new nation. And normally I always do a domain introduction, so I've actually got my book here. So I want you to pretend like we're back in our classroom for listening and learning, and that you're sitting on the carpet and just like it's normal. Can you do that? Can you go back and think that you're there? Okay, so I want you to think. My first question is, I want you to name the country that we live in. Did you get it? Did you say the United States of America? That's right. And the state that we live in is Tennessee. Now, did you know that there has not always been a country or nation known as the United States of America and made up of different states, such as Tennessee? So for the next several days, we're going to be learning all about some of the important events and people who are responsible for the creation of our country, the United States of America. Now, if you have a map or a globe at home, I want you to see, and I've done this to kind of explain it a little bit better so you can kind of see how, if you find North America is a continent. Now, inside this continent of North America, you will find the country in which we live, which is the United States of America. And inside of the United States of America is Tennessee, which is the state in which we live. So as you can see, Tennessee is not only in the United States of America, but it's also on the continent of North America. So today I'm going to be reading to you our very first read aloud for this domain, and the title of this read aloud is The New World. Now here's what I want you to listen for. Are you ready? Now, the Pilgrims were not the first English people to settle in North America. In fact, English people had settled in other places in North America before the Pilgrims. Now, in today's read aloud, you're going to learn about some other places in North America where the English settled, both before and after the Pilgrims' arrival. So here's what you're listening for. I want you to listen to find out about other English settlements in North America. Okay, here we go. So today we're going to be doing lesson 1, the New World. And here are some words that I want you to listen for as I'm reading. Colony, freedoms, which is actually going to be our word of the day, government, indentured servants, settlements, and slaves. This is the North American continent where we live today. Now the part that is red, that's colored red, is the United States. Many hundreds of years ago, life in North America was very different than it is today. Now I want you to kind of describe what you see in this illustration. The first people who lived in North America are known as Native Americans. The Native Americans lived in groups called tribes in different regions of North America. There were no stores like we have now, so they had to find or make everything they needed to survive, whether it was food to eat, clothing to wear, or a house in which to live. Hundreds of years later, a European explorer by the name of Christopher Columbus sailed and reached North America, but that was not where he had planned to go. Now, do you remember what Columbus was looking for when he first set sail from Europe? That's right, spices, gold, and other treasures. Columbus set sail from Europe, hoping to find a quicker way to reach India and China, where spices, gold, and other riches were plentiful. But in 1492, when Columbus actually reached land, after he sailed the ocean blue, he and his crew did not arrive in India or China. They landed instead in North America, where they met the native people who lived there. After Columbus, sailors from different countries in Europe traveled to North America. Portugal, Holland, Spain, France, and England all sent explorers to North America, continuing to hope to find riches and goods that they might bring back to trade and sell in Europe. Everyone was interested in this new world. Now remember that the European explorers called North America the New World because it was new to them as compared to other countries of Europe from which they came. Now I want you to see if you recognize the event that's being shown in this illustration. Did you say Thanksgiving? You are correct. The English did not just want to visit the New World. They were interested in starting settlements in order to live there. So when people start settlements, they move to a new place to live. They wanted a place for their people to spread out from their small island country, England, across the Atlantic Ocean. You probably remember that English pilgrims landed at Plymouth Rock in the 1600s, about 100 years after Columbus. The Pilgrims had great difficulty adjusting to their life in the New World because it was very different from the city life they knew in Europe. The Native Americans that the Pilgrims met helped them survive, especially during that first year. The Pilgrims were not the only English people to start settlements in North America. In fact, before the Pilgrims ever arrived to Plymouth, and you can see Plymouth is right up here in Massachusetts. The blue right up here where I'm pointing, that's Massachusetts right here. Other Englishmen and women wanted to settle in two other places. The first English colony was on Roanoke Island, which is an area right here off the coast of North Carolina. Followed by a colony at Jamestown. Now, Jamestown was right here off of Virginia. Now, a colony is a place that is ruled by a faraway country. So the English men and women who moved to and settled Roanoke Island and Jamestown did not make their own rules or laws. The English king and government ruled the colonies. Now, a government is a particular group of people who make decisions and laws for the people who elect them. The first child born in North America to English parents was born on Roanoke Island. Her name was Virginia Dare. Now, the people are English settlers watching the baptism of Virginia Dare. Now, a baptism is a Christian religious ceremony that sometimes takes place after a baby is born. We don't really know what happened to Virginia Dare or the other English settlers living on Roanoke Island because they mysteriously disappeared several years after they arrived. For this reason, Roanoke Colony is often called the Lost Colony. Now, the colony was not really lost, but the colonists were never seen again. Some people think life was so difficult on Roanoke Island that the colonists left their settlement and went to live with some of the Native American tribes in the area. Now remember, the Pilgrims had difficulty too and depended upon the Native Americans to help them grow and find food. Some people think the Roanoke Island settlers may have gone to live with the Native Americans since they may have run out of food. It was another 20 years after the Roanoke colony before the English tried to settle again in North America. When they did, 100 English men and boys sailed up a river from the Atlantic Ocean and named the river James in honor of the King of England. The settlement they founded was called Jamestown. Now, like the other English settlers, the people who came to Jamestown met the Native Americans who were already living in this area. The English wanted to trade goods with them and were especially interested in acquiring the Native Americans' beaver and deer skins to send back to England, where they were able to sell them for a high price. As time passed, more and more settlers from Great Britain arrived in North America. Now remember, at this time, many years after the first English colonists arrived in North America, the country they came from was known as Great Britain. All up and down the east coast of North America, they formed more colonies where they started new lives for themselves. By 1732, there were 13 British colonies in North America: Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia. Now, the people living in the 13 colonies in North America were ruled and controlled by the king and government of Britain. The British did not accomplish the hard work of setting up colonies all by themselves. They especially needed lots of helpers to clear and farm the land. European ships brought people taken from the continent of Africa to work in the New World. The first Africans to arrive at Jamestown were probably indentured servants. This meant that they were forced to work with no pay for the English colonists for a certain number of years. During this time, the Africans were not free to live or work anywhere else until they had finished working for the agreed upon number of years. After that time, they were free to live and work where they wanted and to be paid for that work. As the British colonies grew, more and more workers were needed. And before long, many people from Africa were forced to come to North America and were no longer treated as indentured servants. They were slaves. The slaves did not share the freedoms enjoyed by the colonists. Now, freedoms are rights to decide what you want to do or how you want to live. They could not leave their farms without permission, and it was against the law for anyone to teach a slave to read or write. As the colonists settled in the colonies, more changes were to come. So here are my questions for the read aloud, and if you want to pause to answer, you can do that. You can also, if you want to get a sheet of paper, you can get in some extra writing practice and write down your answers. Make sure when you give your answer to use a complete sentence and try to restate the question in your answer if you can. So my first question is, who were the very first people known to live in North America? Question 2. English pilgrims settled Plymouth Colony. Name 2 other English colonies in North America that were settled before the Pilgrims arrived in Plymouth. Question 3. Why is Roanoke Island called the Lost Colony? Question 4. How many British colonies were settled in North America? Question 5. Were the first Africans that arrived in Jamestown indentured servants or slaves? In what ways were indentured servants and slaves similar, and in what ways were they different? Question 6. Why did the colonists want indentured servants and slaves? And question 7. Who governed and ruled the 13 British colonies, the King of Great Britain or the people who lived in the colonies? Now, our word of the day is freedom. So with our word work, we're going to do it all around the word freedoms. So in the read aloud you heard, the slaves did not share the freedoms enjoyed by the colonists. Say the word freedoms with me. Freedoms. Freedoms are rights to decide what you want to do or how you want to live. So an example may be, I have more freedoms now than when I was younger. For example, one of my freedoms now is to choose what clothes I want to wear to school. What other freedoms do you enjoy? I want you to think about things that perhaps you can do now as a first grader that you were not permitted to do when you were in preschool or kindergarten. So try and use the word freedoms when you tell about it. Now I'm going to name a possible freedom. And if it's one of the freedoms that you have in your family, say, I have that freedom. If it is not one of the freedoms you have in your family, say, I do not have that freedom. Number 1, picking out what clothes to wear to school. Number 2, deciding when it's time to go to bed. Number 3, crossing the street by yourself. Number 4, deciding what to watch on TV. And number 5, choosing what to eat for lunch. So now what I want you all to do, I want you to log into Brain Pop Junior, and I want you to click on Social Studies and then American History, and you can watch this video about the 13 colonies. And if you want to, you can take the quiz afterward. Now, for tomorrow, the way that the pacing guide is set up, that today you just do the read aloud, tomorrow you're going to do a writing activity. Now, I'm going to give you 2 options. There's one option in your packet, and I've shown kind of what your plan should look like right here for option 1. So I have Roanoke Island and Jamestown, and the title of this draft will be English Settlement. So in your packet, I'm going to turn to it real quick. It says for Tuesday for writing, your prompt is, what were some of the early English settlements in North America? So you can draw pictures about Roanoke Island and Jamestown and write words of different things that you heard for your plan, things that you heard in the read aloud. You can put that for your plan and then use the 2. You can compare and contrast if you'd like, or you can just write different things that you learned about both English settlements. Your other option for your writing activity has to do with your Think, Pair, Share question from this read aloud. And since we can't do Think, Pair, Share in class, I've turned it into a question for you all. So if you could travel back in time, would you rather be one of the Native Americans who first lived in North America, one of the sailors who traveled with Columbus, or one of the English colonists? What do you think you might like and dislike about living in that time? So you can choose from being either a Native American, a sailor who traveled with Columbus, or an English colonist. So whichever one you choose, this right here says pros and right here says cons. So the things that you would like and the things that you would dislike. So draw those different things for your plan. And I've created a starter sentence here for you to start writing, but it says, if I could travel back in time, I would rather be, and this blank is where you're going to write in one of those 3, the one that you selected. And then because. So this is an opinion writing. You're going to talk about what you think and why. So that's why the because is there. And then I have in parentheses here to list your reasons. So make sure you use complete sentences to list your reasons for that. So remember, this activity is supposed to be for Tuesday. Okay, so you may want to come back and rewatch this part of the video, or you may want to go ahead and get your plan ready. And then that way tomorrow you're ready to do your plan.